Good morning, my name is Ron Cromer. Today we're going to be discussing belt sander safety. We're also going to learn how to break it down and set it up. So what's going to happen today? First, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the safety issues and concerns that we have with sanding and finishing floors and the use of the drum sander. Next, we're going to go out in the shop and we are going to take a sander apart, put it back together, and we're going to check it for safety. Make sure that it is operable and that it is safe to operate. We're going to cover the safety concerns with operating it. Then we're going to take about 40 minutes or so for you guys to get comfortable with setting it up, taking it down for storage, and going over the safety issues and concerns with it. And then we're going to walk through it. Each one of you is going to break it down, set it up for me. I'm going to ask you questions while we're doing that, and you're going to answer them to my satisfaction. And barring any unforeseen circumstances, you will then receive a grade, and away we'll go. So first thing we want to do is we want to start with the biggest safety concern for sanding and finishing floors and using this drum sander is fire, which is why we have our fire extinguisher here. We want to make sure that we have a up-to-date fire extinguisher and that it is fully charged, as you can see right there. You want to also make sure that it is suitable for wood and electrical fires. So that's what we're dealing with here. So when we sand floors, the nails and studs that are in the floor, we want to make sure those are nice and set so that we're not going to sand across them. If we sand across a nail or a piece of metal, it can make sparks. The sparks will collect in a bag on the machine, and the machine possibly cause a fire. So we want to make sure that we have that all set up. The next thing we want to make sure of is our electrical connection. We have these machines running on 220 for the most part. We want to make sure that the ends of our cords are in good condition so that there's not any nicks, breaks, cracks, that they're actually on there. We give them a little tug. Next thing we're going to do, we want to make sure we don't drop the cords on the floor because you can crack or break those ends. But we want to make sure that these cords are free of abrasions and or cuts. So we're going to run through this cord, just pull it through our hands the whole way through. We also want to make sure that when we plug this in, that we don't have this cord coiled up like this. If you have the cord coiled up like that, it increases the energy in the cord and gets it hot and could possibly start a fire. You see a recurring theme here. Okay. So, barring a fire hazard, the other hazard that we have is the sawdust itself, which is a carcinogen. We recommend that you use either the N95 mask. If you're going to be doing this every now and again, the N95 mask will be fine. If you're going to do this every day as a career, I would get fit tested with a carbon filter respirator. Some of the stuff that we cut off of the floors when we're refinishing a floor contains a catalyst. The catalyst is caustic, also has a very low flash point, which is why we don't leave it sit in the bag. But these carbon filter will filter out those finer particles. They'll also filter out that catalyst. The other thing that we want to take into consideration is the noise. Noise level in these machines is very loud, so we want to get a good pair of earmuffs or the earplugs. I'm not a big fan of these squish in your ear earplugs, but if you're only doing it every now and again, that'll be fine. If you're going to do it every day, you want to get a good set of earmuffs or noise canceling ear protection. The other things, I'm allergic to maple and oak. The oils themselves, when they get on my skin, I have an issue with it. So you want to keep yourself a pair of nitrile rubber gloves and wear them while you were sanding and finishing the floors. So on this particular machine behind me, we have dust collection bag. This dust collection bag should never be left on the machine with sawdust in it. The sawdust itself, when you put it in concentration like that, it can heat up and it could cause a flash fire. The first thing I want to do with this machine when I get it, and I'm going to check it out, make sure everything is good. So I want to make sure it's unplugged, which this is. Clark's outlet is right here. And make sure it's off, no electricity going through it. Next thing I want to check is I want to check this guard. I want to make sure that there's nothing in this guard. There's no abrasions, there's no rubbing in the guard. You notice this machine already has belts on it. This lever right here is the tensioner for the belt, and the tension should be off the belts when you get the machine. You want to take these belts off this machine. You want to check the pulleys. You want to make sure there's no cuts, nicks, or abrasions in any of the pulleys as you go through Then you want to check the belt for the same thing. You also want to look for glazing on the edge of this belt. You can see a little bit here on the edge of this one. That sometimes means that there is some sort of friction or problem with the machine and is causing this belt to rub. So you want to be careful, and you want to check the rollers, and you want to check the conditions of other things. It's sort of kind of a little bit of a heads up for you. I happen to know that on this particular machine, these belts are a set of belts that are old, but I'm using them for demonstration purposes. You also want to make sure that the belts are a nice round shape. You don't want them all cattywampus and things like that. If they are, if you've got a big kink in the belt, it'll cause a vibration in the machine, which could then damage the floor that you're about to sand. So when you put these belts on, you want to put the drive belt on first, which is the main drive belt, and that goes on the top pulley. It's going to be the closest to the machines. You want to watch your fingers. Keep your fingers on the outside of this pulley. If you get your fingers underneath, you're going to get them pinched, and it hurts. So the next one we're going to put on the small pulleys, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to keep our fingers off, and then we're going to push this lever, and you're going to notice it puts tension on these belts. We're going to make sure there's proper tension on there, and there is. We're going to close this door. The door is just a compression fit, which is why we're going to check for the nicks and stuff on the belts. If those belts break, they're moving at a high rate of speed. It could possibly knock that guard off and or injure somebody that's standing nearby, yourself included. Excuse me, which is why we also want to have safety glasses on. The next thing that we're going to look at with this machine is we're going to look at the drum and the belts. And this particular machine has a lever on the side here. I don't know if you can see or not, but that controls the tensioner top roller. And there's a piece of sandpaper on. Does anybody know why we have a piece of paper in here already? Correct, we have a piece of paper in here ready to protect this drum. Should we run over a screw or something in transportation, it's not going to put any divots in that drum. Next thing we want to look for is we want to look at the condition of the belt. A lot of times they'll put an old belt in here, so sometimes that belt came off the machine. If the belt, for instance on this one, you can see on the inside has those lines. Those lines are indicative of something being caught in the pinch roller. So we want to check that a little bit while we're inspecting the rest of this machine. So we'll inspect the drum, make sure it's good. We're going to tip this machine back on its heels. We're going to turn this drum by hand while we're observing it. Run your hand across the drum, make sure that there's no debris, there's no chunks taken out, there's no nicks in it. There's a set of wheels back here that this machine is going to ride on. We also want to make sure there's no chunks out of that and that there's not buildup on that. I notice in this door on this machine, there's a rub. That rub is an old rub, but I noted that it's there. What causes that rub is this belt will actually track off the roller and make contact with the door. That's a bad thing because, why? Correct. Contacts metal, makes sparks. So we want to make sure that when we put this belt in, that it's tracking properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a fresh belt. We're going to put the belt on. Put it over the top roller. And just seat it, and we want this belt to seat all the way in to within about a 1/16 of an inch of the drum. Next thing we want to do is we're going to put the sander back on its feet. And we're going to get it actually up off the carriage rollers. This set of rollers or wheels in the back is for transportation only, so that if you hit a bump or a nick or something, it doesn't throw the sander out of whack. So now what we're going to do, with the door open and our body out of the way, we're going to plug this in, and we're going to turn it on for a half a second or so, okay? We're going to stay out of the way. We're going to watch to make sure this tracks correctly. If it tracks and the paper comes out and makes contact with metal or makes sparks, we're going to take that paper out, we're going to turn it around. Sometimes the belt manufacturers mess up a little bit, and those belts will track either in and out just because of the way they're manufactured. So once that's done, we're going to close this up, and we're ready to sand. When we're sanding, if we have to walk away from the machine for any reason, this bag gets emptied. If you have to go to the bathroom, empty the bag first. If you have to take a phone call, empty the bag first. If Mrs. Jones and the homeowner want to ask you a question, empty the bag first. Can't tell you how many times somebody has left sawdust in the bag, walked away. 30 minutes later, this bag's smoking. You add a little bit of oxygen to it, and it is a full-blown fire in the living room. So we want to avoid that. We also don't want to throw this sawdust into a black plastic bag and then throw it in a dumpster. That black plastic bag will get hot enough for the sawdust in there to combust. So to break this machine down, we're going to do the opposite. We're never going to store this bag on the machine. We're going to put it in the van or we store it. We're going to take the bag off the machine. We're going to open the door over here with the belts. We're going to take the tension off the belts. Okay? We're going to store the belts on here for a short time. If I'm going to store it for an extended period of time, I'm going to take those belts off and I'll lay them flat and store it that way. I'm also going to open this door up and I'm going to take the tension here. It's on. I'm going to make sure the tension's off of this belt. I don't want to leave the tension on that belt for any extended period of time. It'll make flat spots on that machine, which will then cause vibrations, which will put the marks and imperfections in our sanded floors. This machine also has a cord hanger. You never want to put this cord, you never want to put it over your shoulder, thusly, while you're sanding. I've seen so many guys do this. If this cord has a small nick or abrasion in it and you start sweating, and that makes contact with that nick or abrasion in the cord, your sweat, you're going to get a shock right in the neck. Never, ever, ever put it over your shoulder like that. And this is ready for storage now or transportation. If you have any questions, concerns, comments? Yes, the bag does have some sawdust in it, but at this point in time, it's empty enough that it's not in a heavy enough concentration to really cause an issue. If I was driving this back to the shop, I would put this bag in a sealed metal container, like a metal garbage can or something, so that it couldn't get any oxygen, couldn't get any air. And I wouldn't leave it sit in the van. I wouldn't leave it sit in there baking in the sun. Again, those catalytic chemicals that we sand up have a very low flash point. So yeah, you want to make sure that it's a big concern. And I think that's all I have for today. If you guys don't have any questions, we'll let you go through and play with this for about 40 minutes, and then I will talk to you about the machine. You can explain it to me. 40 minutes later. Okay, good. You guys all did well. All went through the machines. You got it together. You got it apart. Yep. Yeah, there was that one cord that I brought in. It did have a big nick in it. Yep. I'm glad all you guys found that. Do we have any other questions? Any other concerns? Yeah, if you need to store, you can't take this out to the dumpster, the sawdust out to the dumpster all the time. You can get a container, a water container, and you can dump the sawdust into the water. You have to be careful with that because, again, the catalyst, now that water, we have some issues with it, so we're going to have to dispose of that properly. They make some stuff called Surrey Slayer. We can put that in the water, and it'll take care of it nicely. But again, we don't want to keep the fire down to a minimum. So, okay, with that, you guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.